What does the new birth bring? I said sensibility, but also identity. Now, the reason I mention the word identity here is because Jesus doesn't use the impersonal term of the new life being implanted like a seed. He says the new life comes into you as like a baby being born, and babies are born into families. And if you're reading John 3, you've already read John 1, and John 1 puts the identity and family very, very closely, it's very closely tied to the new birth. So, of course, in chapter 1, it says, very famously, it says, for all those who received him, who believed in his name, he gave the rights to be children of God who are born not of natural descent or of human decision, but born of God. Now notice, as soon as it starts talking about the new birth, it talks about the fact that rights of the children of God. It makes sense, because when you're born, we're using the image of a baby, you're born into a new family and into a new name or into a name. Now, what does that mean? I'm sure that when John wrote these words in John 1, where he says, we're not born of natural descent or of human decision, he didn't have this in mind, but keep this in mind. What is your identity? Your identity has to be rooted in something. Your identity is a sense of self and a sense of worth. If you're from a non-Western part of the world, non-Western country, probably your identity is basically rooted in your family. Probably your family. Because in that part of the world, you are a good person, you can feel good about yourself, you can know that you're okay, as long as you are fulfilling your family's responsibility, is pleasing your family, is being a good son or daughter, a good husband or wife, a good mother or father, and as long as you are living up to your family's expectations, you can feel good about yourself. Now, there's pressure there. Your family can control you. It can be pretty suffocating. It can be exploitative. But if you're in the West, you don't have that kind of family-oriented identity. How do you feel good about yourself? Well, we live in an individualistic culture where you decide who you want to be, and you determine who you want to be, and it's your will that matters. And you decide, I want to do this, and I want to do that, and then you go out and you do it. But of course, that's putting a lot of pressure on you too. Enormous pressure. But don't you see, interesting, that to be born again, to be born of God, is not to be born by family descent. It's not of natural descent or of human decision. I'm sure that it's only an accident, perhaps, that the two things that are mentioned there are Western and non-Western identities. But don't you see what it means to receive rights as children of God? You're not on the spectrum. You're off the spectrum. Your identity is received, not achieved. Your identity is rooted in God's love for you, in the fact that God is now your father, not your boss, not just your boss, not just your king. He is, though, that, but he's your father. And there's an unconditionality, as it were, to his regard for you. And that is so different than any other kind of identity. So you get a new identity, and it's remarkable. And it's nothing like anything that you've ever had before.